Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and we are going to be covering some very important tactics to improve your ability to win in World of Warcraft PvP. These are pretty common mistakes that are being made that you are probably unaware of that we are going to be looking at in this video. If you like this type of content, you want to stay up to date with World of Warcraft news and events, so you're always ahead of the competition, then do make sure you hit the subscribe button, as it's just going to let you know when my videos go live so you never miss a beat. And I am currently working towards that long-term goal of getting to 100,000 subscribers, and I would appreciate your support along in that journey. So the first most common mistake that I see a lot of teams making is either they use too many cooldowns all at once, or they don't use any cooldowns and they end up dying. This is the most common situation, and this is the number one thing holding you back from climbing in PvP. And I'm going to be running you through a game as an example of this. So often I will see most healers struggling at lower ratings when they're being attacked, and we have a game here where this enemy team is going to do nothing but target me. So my main goal is to stand behind the pillar out of line of sight of the enemies, so they have to come forward to me. And as soon as we get crowd controlled, this moment right here, I'm going to pause the video. This is when you need to observe the arena and see what's going on to determine your reaction. So the first thing you're going to do is anyone stunned? You need to acknowledge that. Second thing you need to do is, has anything been crowd controlled on the opposing side to reduce incoming damage towards yourself? And the third one is, has your enemy used anything to break that crowd control? So first of all, we're stunned. This is danger. Second of all, our warrior has feared our opponents. However, the Death Knight has used Lichborn to break out of the fear, which means they're going to connect their damage. The monk has trinketed as well, and if this fear breaks, I am likely going to take an immense amount of damage. However, at this time, with two targets feared, you will see that I don't use paint suppression right away. The monk is feared. I don't paint suppression. As soon as the monk is not crowd controlled, I paint suppression. And I went through that chain of events to see I'm stunned, I'm in trouble. Some enemies are peeled, which is going to reduce damage. I'm not going to use a cooldown. As soon as they've broken out of all crowd control, I'm going to have to use a cooldown to stop damage. And I use that checklist in every single situation to determine kind of what is the result as far as cooldowns are concerned to be able to survive. Now, I do end up trinketing onto the Strangulate and recovering with Radiance. I pop Rapture, and I like using defensive cooldowns when you're getting attacked like this that let you move while heal, and Rapture just makes your powered shields really big so you can cast them and move towards your target. Against a Mistweaver, this is just a nice tactic, is to try and run on top of them, so this way they're always worried about getting crowd controlled, they're always worried about getting interrupted. If you leave a Mistweaver in the back and just let them free heal, you're going to lose a lot of the time to Mistweavers because of this. But I'm just repositioning away from the Death Knight, and here I try and jump and turn my character to make it look like I'm jumping out the side to try and juke my opponents. But again, I'm not going to be in trouble until they have a stun, so I'm focused on offense during this downtime, trying to get my allies back onto their target, using Life Grip and things like this if my allies get knocked off the side. Because for the most part, you're only going to be in trouble when stuns occur, and you're going to want to go through that checklist. So my goal outside of stuns is to try and get distance. Now look, same situation. We're crowd controlled, right? So the first checklist is I've been crowd controlled. Second checklist is to look at my opponents. Are they going to be crowd controlled? I ended up using my fairy wall here on myself, predicting this attack on myself. And I predicted it based on the mobility of my opponents. If I didn't fairy wall here, I actually probably was dead on this stun lock, because when you watch this, you'll see that my opponents are not crowd controlled. I am stunned and intervenes me, but intervene's not really going to do too much. We hex the Windwalker, and this is really important. You can see like this chain of events is I'm stunned. Enemies need to be crowd controlled. I need assistance from my allies, and depending on the amount of assistance I get from my allies or the cooldown that I've used, I'm going to be able to survive the situation. I survive the stun, which then lets me fear, stopping the enemies from attacking, and I can use my biggest instant heals, and I want to save those big instant heals for that specific stun moment to recover immediately afterward, so that I'm not dipping down into like a critically low death range. But this is how you want to be moving through these events is, hey team, I'm stunned. What can you do to help me? Can you heal, hex, intervene, whatever is available to your team? Like, this is when you need to be calling for assistance from the classes that you're playing with. This is from a priest perspective with a shaman and a warrior. And then as soon as you've survived that moment, you want to start turning it around, get dots onto your enemies, maybe play a bit more offensive as a healer. I start spamming out smite, keeping up atonement, using penance a lot more offensively in between on this downtime to try and just like blast your target. Again, dragging on top of Mistweaver is a really good idea. Swap back to Death Knight. We end up getting knocked off the side. If I'd been on the other side of the bridge, I could have life gripped a little bit sooner here. And they're just trying to stall until their next stun with the way that their composition works. Here, we're stunned, so we got to do like a quick little checklist. What do they have active, right? There's no offensive cooldowns. There's no Storm, Earth, and Fire, no Zwen. There's one cooldown here from the Death Knight, but it's just the Death Knight. It's a 2-second stun. They don't have anything out of it. So I should be all right to just use some minor cooldowns like Fade or Desperate Prayer, which you can use pretty much every time you're stunned. It'll be up. Now they've activated Zwen, which means they're going to ramp up. So I'm going to fear the Death Knight, fear the Monk on their Zwen, swap to the healer, stop them from connecting with that massive burst damage. And I'm mostly trying to stall until I can get my trinket back. So my trinket's coming up in 2 seconds. You can see we're crowd controlled, right? Checklist. We were stunned. There's Storm, Earth, and Fire. Pink icons popped. This is very scary damage. I'm immediately going to trinket and put my Power Word Barrier down. This is going to then use my instant cast Radiances to get really big heals, and I time that every time. Try and waddle my way back into the barrier. You can also use Soul Shape. I'm Knife and I can blink away from them, and we managed to be able to kill the Mistweaver amidst all of that chaos while surviving. So the first mistake in this video of myself as a healer from watching it is that I had to use too many cooldowns at the beginning, right? Using a trinket and a pain suppression is too much. So trinket barrier was probably a better move at the start of the game, and then trinket barrier would have been up here for this moment as well. And I could have used pain suppression at that one moment where I hit 1%. If you remember that earlier on in the game, I had to use a pre-Fey wall. Sometimes you will run into situations where you don't have your trinket, and when you don't have your trinket, you need to do that predictive play. You got to be like, all right, I'm anticipating attack. Where is it coming from? I see enemies moving close to me. I'm going to activate my defensive cooldown. They're not going to want to attack you into that defensive cooldown. So more often than not, they'll stall and wait. And while you're stalling that, you're getting other cooldowns back up. You're going to get crowd control, something to help you survive again, that you can extend that window of opportunity to keep yourself alive and keep yourself going. So the main goal is to try and not use as many trinkets as possible on your side so that your allies can trinket later on and be able to assist you. I think like a good rule of thumb is to generally to allow whoever's getting attacked to use their trinket first, especially if you're playing with no voice and you're in LFG. You should be like, all right, whoever gets attacked, use your defensive cooldowns first, and then healer can use theirs. This is going to extend your lifespan in a game, and even just extending it one more setup beyond will put you leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of other teams that are currently playing from LFG or at lower ratings when you're trying to climb. And so I hope that this advice is going to be of help to you, or if it's cleared some things up. Remember the checklist: am I stunned? Have the enemies activated offensive cooldowns? And can my team do anything to heal me or stop my enemies from attacking? If the answer to all of that is yes to the stun, yes they have cooldowns, no they can't help me, you need to trinket. You need to use your most powerful defensive cooldown in that situation. Now, if the enemies are crowd controlled, they're not doing any damage, you can sometimes be greedy in that position, and you're just going to always follow that checklist and just follow it step by step. And that's kind of why I wanted to outline it here, because I know 3s can be a lot more hectic than other brackets like 2s, and I wanted to try and get some information out here to make it easier to understand in the 3v3 bracket. Other than that, thank you very much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one.